We're in northern San Diego County, here in the city of Vista, out at the...
Antique Gas and Steam Engine Museum.
That's a mouthful there, Rod.
Yeah, it is.
So tell me a little bit about this place.
Well, we started out as an engine club about 40 years ago. We celebrated our 40th anniversary this year. And since that time, we've kind of grown from the farm aspect into just anything technological from the industrial age. We're as much about preserving the know-how to run it, fix it, work on it, as we are collecting the artifacts. So
now, I understand you have the room for this as well, because we're on, what, 55 acres here?
Yes.
And when you drive up, it's kind of neat, because we're following the GPS coming up here to this hillside in Vista, and this big, huge circle is all you guys, right?
Yeah, this is all part of the original Rancho Guajome leasehold, and we've had a partnership with San Diego County Parks all these years. This was part of the original rancho. He acquired it back in the 70s.
Well, let's walk over here.
Sure.
I'm sitting here reading some of these. A pump house right here. What exactly does this engine, what is it doing?
Well, in the old days, you know, all of these engines, you would belt it up to whatever you needed done. This one's running a pump jack. Some of the larger ones along the line ran power plants, irrigation wells, factories.
So a water pump, like it's pulling water up out of the ground?
Yeah, we're pulling water out of a ditch for irrigation.
And this is run by steam?
No, this is the gas engine.
This is the gas engine,
Yeah,
okay.
all these along here are gas and diesel engines.
Okay. And this one seems small, and these ones right here, rather large.
Yeah, this one is just a 5-horse. When you think your new Toyota's probably got, you know, a couple hundred horsepower.
That's
This
5
is-
horsepower.
Yeah, this is 25. Here.
25 horsepower.
We have some historic engines here. This is one of the first power plants off of Catalina Island. It was purchased by the Wrigley family and moved out onto the island back in the teens. We have pretty much the whole series of engines that were on Catalina now from over the years. You know, now everything runs on an underground cable, but we have their first steam engine that was right around the turn of the last century over in another area. This one is the 1920s, and the engine's got a lot of miles on it. It was at Catalina, and then it went to Alaska and ran a cannery up there for about 40 years. Ended up out in Arizona running a lead mine.
Really?
So we acquired this one, came over from Arizona. So the next one in line, this big Enterprise, that was the original power plant at the Palomar Observatory that was installed back in the 30s.
Rod, I'm just kind of, you know, going, I'm sure other people watching too are doing the same thing. When I think of like historic things like cars and houses and other stuff, I don't ever think about what was running things back in the day.
Right.
And you have this collection of what was running things back in the day.
Absolutely.
And some of them still operate today.
Oh yeah, probably 95% everything here will still go work for a living. You know, some of it's old, ugly, and rusty, but you know, we kind of like it that way.
So this one right here, we're gonna move on down here. This is the one that keeps making noise.
Yeah.
Am I in the danger zone?
No.
What's
No,
it
but
doing?
as it slows down, it'll close that valve and then it'll fire.
And then that noise right there. So fascinating. What's the oldest engine you have here?
1880s.
1880s, and what was it used for?
The first ones were used for pumping water out of mines and things like that. So, I mean, in this area, most of them, the early ones were irrigation engines.
Okay.
When they started to irrigate in the area. Dan Jakes here is one of our longtime volunteers, and this is one of our newest acquisitions. This is an Atlas Imperial, made in California.
Okay.
And it's actually a marine engine. It was built during World War II, and did service in the Navy, and then ended up Everingham Brothers Bait Company in San Diego.
Wow.
It was on their bait barge for years and years. And a few years ago, when EPA was doing the old car buybacks and all of that, they were doing that with industrial equipment as well. And this engine was slated to be scrapped, but we got a waiver from the EPA so we could bring it here and restore it. And it is a marine engine. Boats don't have transmissions, so this engine, all of the red push rods you see on the side, the valves are adjustable so the engine will either run clockwise or counterclockwise, so you have your forward and reverse. So got it ready to fire up. You want to jump up there and have Dan give you an engine lesson.
I can do that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Get in there.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, everything's all set. Just pull it into this first notch, then pull it all the way that way.
Oh, really good.
All right.
That was a little bit harder than I thought. Oh, one more? Wow. One more. Good? It's running? Wow. Give me a snapshot of what's in this area back here.
There's a couple generators in here. The big red one down on the end, that is an early refrigeration unit. An ammonia compressor, and
Okay.
that ran the cooling tanks at the Guasti winery
Wow, really?
for years and years.
In Ontario?
Capstan up there that came off of a ship. This red one over here was the first generator on Catalina Island, this big ball steam engine, the red and black one. We just got it into operation this last year, so.
How old are these steam engines?
These will range from most of these are 1880s up through the 1920s.
And this big, huge one right over here, what is this? When is this and what is this?
This is our largest one. It's an Alice Chalmers coreless, and that's a 300 horse engine. This engine ran the Holly Sugar Mill up in Santa Ana for nearly 70 years.
What's Dan doing right there?
Trying to start a 1919 Altman Taylor. This is kind of typical of the big plow engines of the day when they were breaking prairie up in Canada and the northern United States. They just put a big tank on the front that's part of a boiler. Gonna get up there and take it for a drive?
Hey man, if you'll let me, I am in. Whoa! Oh, well, it's not power steering, is it?
No.
Wow, okay. Woo-hoo! Well, it's full steam or gas ahead here at the Antiques Gas and Steam Engine Museum here in Vista, only at our California. This is awesome, Dan. Woo!